Arsenal and Man City in the Carabao Cup Final tomorrow at Wembley Stadium. It is the first opportunity, hopefully the first of many, for this Arsenal team to lift a trophy this season. And we have the opportunity to win our first trophy since the 2020 FA Cup Final. It's the biggest match of the season that either of these clubs have played in so far. We're going to be previewing the starting 11, talking about the game itself, and giving our prediction for which team will be lifting the Carabao Cup trophy tomorrow at Wembley Stadium. This is the American Gooner. We've been waiting for it. We've been anticipating a moment like this all season long. And now it's finally here. Arsenal have the opportunity to lift a trophy. In about 24-ish hours from the time that I'm recording this, Arsenal could potentially be Carabao Cup champions. And it's a weird feeling going into this final against City tomorrow as an Arsenal fan, because I think we all know, regardless of the outcome, whether Arsenal win or City win, there are going to be massive implications on the rest of the season for both clubs. Obviously, for Man City, winning the Carabao Cup would secure them a trophy in a season that in the other two competitions that they're still quote-unquote alive in, looks like it's going to go the way of their opponents as of right now. So they may be saying to themselves that tomorrow at Wembley may be their best and only opportunity to win a trophy this season. And I'm sure they're putting a lot of stock into that thought. Beating Arsenal tomorrow could also provide a bit of a mental momentum swing in the Premier League title race. Not saying it will, but it could place a little bit of self-doubt in Arsenal that Man City are still very much a part of the equation. They are still very much present in the title race. And in a month's time, when Arsenal have to travel to the Etihad and play Man City in what many are forecasting to be a title-deciding match, they'll have to go there with the remembrance that they freshly and recently lost to Man City in the Carabao Cup Final. And then obviously on our side of things, winning the Carabao Cup tomorrow could squash or at least quiet the narrative about this Arsenal team that they have been unable to win major trophies in the past 5 seasons. They've bottled every opportunity they've had to win one in the past. They will never win one under Mikel Arteta's leadership. And in a season that looks so promising in all 4 competitions for Arsenal, they're going to bottle it again. History will repeat itself. Winning tomorrow can quiet the noise of all that talk that I think has overwhelmed the players and the club in recent seasons. It hasn't seemed to impact them yet this season, but I think losing tomorrow may open the door a little bit for that noise to seep into the Arsenal dressing room. But if you're able to win, not only do you disallow that from happening, but you're able to get your hands on a trophy for the first time in a while. You also can take the pressure of winning a trophy this season off of your shoulders a little bit and allow yourselves to focus on the Premier League, the Champions League, and the FA Cup without the intensifying pressure from your own fans and other club supporters and pundits and whoever else that the bottle job is starting to unravel and happen once again. And then you can also deal Man City a massive blow. Like I was just saying, it's probably City's best chance to win a trophy this season. They are losing ground in the Premier League title race, but they're still very much a part of it. If Arsenal can beat them tomorrow, not only is it a knock to the confidence of City? But it's a statement for this Arsenal team that they are here. They are the better side. They're able to beat Man City when it matters. They're able to get their hands on a trophy and beat their closest rivals doing so. It could potentially be a massive swing of momentum for Arsenal and a massive loss of momentum for Man City. So while the Carabao Cup is definitely the least important trophy that both of these teams are eyeing this season, it could prove very important just in terms of what the outcome of the match may mean and what bearings that might have on the other competitions. So needless to say, it's a huge game with some pretty big implications. Let's get into the actual match itself, starting with the players on the pitch. And it's something that I don't think we've talked about in the Arsenal community since the Aaron Ramsdale days. But there are questions as to which goalkeeper should be and will be starting for Arsenal tomorrow at Wembley. Now, Kepa is obviously the cup keeper for Arsenal. That's the job that he was brought here to do. And I'll give him his credit. He's been very solid in both the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup. And I think part of the agreement in bringing him here was that he would get the opportunity to start matches like this. I'm sure that the incentive for him to make the move to Arsenal was that he was either guaranteed or reassured that he would be our cup keeper throughout the entire competition, whether it be Carabao or FA Cup. And so part of me is thinking that per the agreement that was made to bring him to Arsenal, he will be starting tomorrow. And I'd be fine with that. He's a really talented goalkeeper. He's had some great moments both in this Carabao Cup run and in the FA Cup. And if he does start tomorrow, I would have full confidence in him as our keeper in a final against Man City. The question, though, is how desperate are Arsenal to win a trophy at this stage of their journey? Are they desperate enough to start David Raya, who this season has been a top 3 goalkeeper in the world? If you're Mikel Arteta, you do have an obligation to start Kepa in a cup final match, because when you brought him here, you told him that he was being brought to a club like Arsenal, who already had a world-class goalkeeper, so that we could have a reliable keeper like him in net for lesser cup competitions like the Carabao Cup. But you also have an obligation to the rest of the players, to all of the supporters, and to the entire club to win a trophy now. If you take away all the context and you just look at this match for what it is, the keeper that gives you a better opportunity to win a trophy in one 90-minute match is David Raya. And I think that's the dilemma right now. I can't count how many times David Raya has saved Arsenal's season because it's happened so many times. He has an ability to make almost impossible saves and to turn some of the most threatening attacking players in European football away entirely. I mean, he's just been so crucial to the success of this Arsenal team, to the point where if you really want to try and quantify what he offers, he's probably single-handedly contributed Arsenal 15 to 20 points in the Premier League alone. So when I think about who should start tomorrow, as good as Kepa is, and as many guarantees as we gave him that he would be our cup keeper, I do worry that if you don't have a David Raya in goal, you may be disarming yourself of that game-changing save or game-clinching save or trophy-saving save. The other thing to keep in mind is that Man City have already announced that Donnarumma will not be starting in goal. They are going to go with their cup keeper in James Trafford. Now, is that a bit of mind games from Pep prior to an important final against a close rival? Maybe. I don't think it came as a surprise to anybody to hear that they would be backing the goalkeeper that got them to the Carabao Cup final. But was that an attempt from Pep, knowing that Mikel Arteta potentially is faced with a goalkeeping dilemma going into Wembley tomorrow, to try and bait Arteta into picking one keeper or the other? Maybe. All this being said, I do think that Kepa is going to start. However, if I were making the decision, I would go with David Raya. I think this final tomorrow is more important than the other three because winning the Carabao Cup, in my opinion, could unlock the success for Arsenal in every other competition. Getting over the line and getting the monkey off your back of not winning a trophy could open the floodgates for your success moving forward. I would sit Kepa down and I would say, look, you're our cup keeper. You've gotten us to this point, but Raya is a world-class goalkeeper who has the ability to turn a game on its head. You know, I know, everybody knows how important winning a trophy is at this very moment. And at the end of the day, he gives us the best chance to win a trophy. You're still a big part of this team. You still played a huge role in us getting to this point in this competition. And you're still going to be our cup keeper all the way through the FA Cup. But our success in all those other competitions may be hinged on our ability to win a trophy right now. And in doing what's best for the whole club, Raya is going to start. Now, I don't think Arteta is going to do that. I think Kepa's going to start. I think he's going to honor that commitment that he's our cup keeper. He got us to this point. We're going to see it all the way through. And I don't think that's necessarily going to be a mistake. What I do think is that if this is a close game, like we all know it's going to be, and everybody is predicting it to be, do you want to have the security of knowing you have potentially game-changing saves in the hands of David Raya? And I'm sure that's a question that Mikel Arteta has been pondering. For the rest of the starting 11, my prediction for what Mikel Arteta's team is going to look like tomorrow at Wembley, I think Kepa is going to be in goal. I think Timber, Gabriel, Saliba, and Calafiori will be our back four. Zubamendi, Rice, Eze in the midfield. And then Trossard, Gyökeres, and Saka our front three. Potential subs, it sounds like Martin Odegaard is going to be in the team. I think you could see him subbed on for Eze, Kai Havertz for Victor Gyökeres, Piero Nketiah for Ricardo Calafiori, and Gabriel Martinelli for Leandro Trossard. I think had Eze not scored that worldie in the Champions League midweek, there was probably a chance that Martin Odegaard would have started this match. I just don't think you can keep Eberechi Eze out of this team with the form that he's been in recently. Much like Victor Gyökeres, it took him a little while to find his place in the squad. He's certainly still finding his place within this team, but it feels to me like he's gained a level of comfort that we hadn't seen from him for the run of games where he really wasn't starting and wasn't finding his way into the team at all. I think he's found his footing. I think he's found a style of play that he knows is effective not only for himself, but for this Arsenal team. And I think most importantly, he provides something that no other player on the pitch can offer, which is the ability to score those screamers from outside the box. Our attacking buildup all season has been slow, methodical, set piece heavy, get bodies in the box, create chaos, and disrupt the defense of our opposition. And that's where I feel a Victor Gyökeres type player has really thrived, because we are very reliant on physicality in the box. That style doesn't really suit an Eberechi Eze because he's very creative. He's a player that showcases a lot of finesse in his game. and his most threatening attack comes from outside the box. The fact that recently we've been able to accommodate both play styles is phenomenal, because it means that you can incorporate an Eberechi Eze and a Kai Havertz and a Declan Rice in your midfield attack just as much as you can incorporate a Victor Gyökeres or a Leandro Trossard or a Bukayo Saka in your inside the box attack. So with Eze finally finding a way to consistently contribute to the Arsenal attack, and on the heels of that absolute worldie in the Champions League midweek, there's just no way you can leave him out of the starting 11. As desperate as I think Arteta is to get Martin Odegaard back on the pitch for this team in such a massive moment, I don't see him cracking the starting 11. It's much more likely that he'll be used as a sub for Eze in like the 70th-ish minute. Now, what do I think the result will come down to? There's a few different things that I think are going to be the determining factors of who will win the Carabao Cup Final tomorrow. The first and probably the main one is, what version of Man City are we going to see on the pitch tomorrow? It's been a tough week for Man City. They fall 9 points behind Arsenal in the Premier League title race. They're eliminated by Real Madrid in the Champions League. And overall, their form has just looked really poor. And we've said all season that we know this is not the same Man City team that we're seen as these inevitable giants in European football. This team has its flaws, and for as talented as they are on paper, there have been a lot of moments where they've struggled and they have not looked like a top flight team. Specifically, they've struggled against teams battling relegation in the Premier League, which for a club like Man City is usually offset by showing up for big moments in Europe, like the Champions League tie with Real Madrid. But they didn't even do that. They got outright embarrassed by a Real Madrid side that were coping with a lot of injuries and struggling with form themselves. So it's weird that in years past, when City have potentially dropped points to teams they weren't expected to in the Prem, we've said, well, we know they're going to show up for the big moments when they play against the Arsenals, the Liverpools, the Real Madrids, the PSGs. It's weird to sit here and say they haven't even done that. That being said, they know it's probably their best opportunity to win a trophy this season. They certainly, in recent history, haven't really struggled against Arsenal. The last time we were in a Carabao Cup Final, City beat us. So maybe they're saying to themselves that all they have to do is be at their best against Arsenal tomorrow, and a lot could change. And I believe they do still have that in them. As much as I don't, and as much as I want to sit here and say that we are going to be the much better side tomorrow, they've been in poor form, they can't compete with us, we're going to run them out of Wembley Stadium. Deep down, I know that Manchester City very much still have it in them to be better than Arsenal. So that's one of the biggest questions going into the Carabao Cup Final. Which version of Man City are we going to get? And don't get me wrong, I am not saying that if City are at their best, we don't stand a chance. I think I'm more so saying that if the poor run of form continues for Man City, we're going to be much better off. The other big question going into tomorrow is, can Arsenal dictate the pace? There's an obvious hunger and desperation to win a trophy within this Arsenal team. But I can't sit here and act like they've dominated the big moments this season like they probably should have. They've won a lot of games by the skin of their teeth, clinging to 1-goal leads late in games, defending with their lives, playing on their heels, and for lack of a better term, just kind of scraping by. If they want to win tomorrow, they're going to have to take it to Man City. Can they control the majority of possession? Can they dictate the pace and the flow of the game? Can they threaten in and around the box? Can they take an early lead? Can they throw Man City off of their game? And these are all questions that don't have answers because we haven't seen this team play in a final yet. As crazy as it sounds, Declan Rice has not played in a final for Arsenal. Eberechi Eze, Victor Gyökeres, Martin Zubimendi, Gabriel, Saliba, Calafiori, Timber, Raya. None of them have played in a final for Arsenal yet. So it's definitely going to be an interesting test to see how this team comes out and what they look like in a win or go home situation. And the last thing I think the result will come down to is set pieces. No matter who the opponent is, Arsenal have the upper hand when it comes to set pieces. Can we generate a lot of corners? Can we produce a lot of scoring chances from set pieces? Can we limit the amount of corners and free kicks we give to City? As much as I want this to be a runaway victory for Arsenal, the difference is probably going to be scoring from a set piece. So the question is, if it is a tight game late in the second half, will we be able to capitalize on the opportunities from those set pieces in order to clinch a trophy? And finally, my prediction for the 2026 Carabao Cup Final between Arsenal and Man City tomorrow at Wembley Stadium. I'm going to go Manchester City 1, Arsenal 2. I think we are going to get goals from Eberechi Eze and Gabriel, and I think Man City will get a goal from Reinders as a sub. Again, there's so many question marks about this final tomorrow, but the way that I think it's going to go is that Arsenal are going to come out and display that desperation, that hunger, that angst to go and win their first trophy in 6 years. I think we're going to apply pressure to City. We're going to maintain possession. We're going to create a lot of scoring chances. And I think we are going to get an open play goal from Eberechi Eze within the first 20 minutes of the match. I think the first half is going to finish 1-0 Arsenal. And then I think to start the second half, within the first 5 to 10 minutes, I think we're going to score a second goal from a corner, a Gabriel header at the back post to put us up 2-0. Then I think with that cushion, we may back off a little bit, get some subs involved in the game, and I think that's when you're going to see City really start to charge and apply the pressure. And this is when I think that defending is going to be really key. I think there's going to be some pivotal moments in the second half when we're up by 2 goals. City are desperate, looking for a goal to try and find their way back in the game, and that Arsenal brick wall is going to stand strong. I do think Man City will get a goal. I think it's going to be really tough to keep a clean sheet, especially if we start Kepa. But I think it's going to be late enough in the second half where Arsenal still have the confidence to hold on to that 2-1 lead and win the Carabao Cup. So that's my prediction for tomorrow's final at Wembley, 2-1 to the Arsenal. I do think that we are going to get our hands on the Carabao Cup trophy. And I'll leave you all with that. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the American Gooner. If you haven't already, please like the video, subscribe, leave your comments down below. And if you're listening on Spotify, drop us a follow, drop us a comment as well. We will be back tomorrow to recap the Carabao Cup Final. Good or bad, we're still going to record an episode. Fingers crossed that it's good, but regardless, tomorrow, Sunday, following the conclusion of the match, we will have a post-match reaction podcast coming out on both YouTube and Spotify, so stay tuned for that. But until then, come on, you Gunners.